Welcome to NTD News Today.
Here are today's top stories.
President Biden and former President Trump notch up wins across the board on Super Tuesday. Hear what experts say about a probable rematch.
Nikki Haley is dropping out of the race. Hear what she said about her campaign and former President Trump.
Democrat Josh Stein and Republican Mark Robinson win the North Carolina primaries for governor and will face off for the state's top leadership spot later this year.
Biden will give the State of the Union address this Thursday. The speech could be an opportunity for the president to ease widespread concern about his physical and mental fitness.
Moscow dismisses arrest warrants issued by the International Criminal Court for two high-ranking Russian military figures accused of war crimes in Ukraine.
Camera footage captures an avalanche in Chamonix, France. Video shows snow rolling down a mountain and approaching a group of 6 skiers.
This is NTD News Today, live from our NTD Global Headquarters. Here are Stephania Cox and Chris Beers.
Hi, I'm David Lamb, sitting in for Chris Beers.
And starting with election results from Super Tuesday, former President Trump is on track to win almost every Republican contest held yesterday. GOP presidential candidate Nikki Haley scored a win in Vermont.
President Biden cruised through easy victories on the Democratic side, winning all contests but one. A general election rematch between old rivals looks more than likely after over a dozen states held contests on the biggest day in the 2024 presidential primary. NTD's Jeremy Sandberg has takeaways from Super Tuesday.
Former President Trump took a huge leap towards GOP nomination on Super Tuesday, storming through most states. With many votes still being counted, Trump leads by wide margins across the board and has racked up close to 1,000 Republican delegates of the roughly 1,200 needed for nomination. GOP contender Nikki Haley now has around 90 after a victory in Vermont. Haley received around 50% of the vote, Trump around 46%. Trump has projected a big win in California for 170 GOP delegates. The state awards all delegates to a candidate with over 50% of the vote. Trump took the battleground state of North Carolina with over 70% of the vote to Haley's 23%. Trump is also projected to win Texas, where roughly 160 delegates are at stake. President Biden dominated most Democratic contests, but was handed his first defeat of the presidential primary in the tiny American Samoa territory. Democratic candidate Jason Palmer, a venture capitalist from Baltimore, beat Biden by 51 to 40 votes. The territory sends 6 delegates to the DNC, but does not have any electoral college votes. Biden faced a nearly 20% uncommitted vote in Minnesota from voters looking to send a message on the Israel-Hamas war. Trump and Biden will both campaign in Georgia this weekend, a critical swing state for a probable rematch in November. The Peach State holds its primaries next Tuesday. Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News.
And following her losses on Tuesday, Nikki Haley announces that she's dropping out of the race.
Hear her speech from Charleston, South Carolina earlier this morning.
I am filled with the gratitude for the outpouring of support we've received from all across our great country. But the time has now come to suspend my campaign. I said I wanted Americans to have their voices heard. I have done that. I have no regrets.
Haley's exit means former President Trump is now the presumptive Republican nominee. This also makes 2024 one of the fastest narrowing primary fields in recent history.
In her speech, Haley didn't endorse Trump, but she congratulated him on becoming the presumptive nominee and wished him well. Haley also said she hopes Trump can earn the support of voters who didn't vote for him.
The former candidate also sent out a message of unity. She said, "Our country is too precious to let our differences divide us."
A Haley campaign advisor told CNN that the team had set a loose threshold of winning about 40% of the vote in several states to credibly stay in the race, but Haley didn't reach that benchmark.
Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell has officially endorsed Trump for a presidential bid. He says Trump has the necessary support of Republican voters and will have his backing as the nominee. McConnell says he looks forward to shifting focus from defending against Biden's policies to actively improving Americans' lives.
McConnell was one of the highest profile Republicans who had not yet endorsed Trump. He previously declined to state his support for the former president, saying he would back the party's eventual nominee. CNN entrance and exit polls of the Republican presidential contest so far highlight former President Trump's popularity among GOP voters. Across 6 states, Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, and California, most GOP primary voters said they'd consider Trump fit for the presidency even if he's convicted of a crime.
Trump's victory in those 6 states puts him on course to become the party's presidential nominee for a 3rd time. Only about 46% of New Hampshire Republican primary voters acknowledged Biden's 2020 election win, and the numbers get smaller from there. 41% in Virginia, 36% in South Carolina, 33% in California, 32% in North Carolina, and just 29% in Iowa.
Trump has also racked up support among primary voters who are the most unhappy with the way things are going in the U.S. In each of the states where this question was asked, the former president won 80% or more of voters who describe themselves as angry.
And here to speak with us about this is former Representative Dave Bratt. He's now Vice Provost for Engagement and PR at Liberty University. Welcome.
Thanks, great to be with you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dave. Now, Haley is dropping out, as we've just heard. Does this change the game in any significant kind of way?
Not really. I mean, I think most of the results last night were predictable. I think the thing that will change with Haley falling out is the Republican base, right? And all the political views are just my own. Will start to realize, and the average voter will start to realize, it's not just Trump, the personality now, right? A lot of conservatives are very concerned. The Tucker interview with Mike Benz, where he surveyed the State Department working with DOD and CIA and FBI and the border security folks spying on the American people. And then the big 3 issues, you know, the border invasion, the $50 trillion in debt in 9 years by CBO, slow economic growth for the next 20 years for CBO, loss of purchasing power of 20%, forever wars. We're at war now. We had peace and prosperity under the last administration. And so I think people are going to start to view it as not so much Trump or Haley or any of that, but the current policies are not serving us too well. And I think there's going to be some huge moves along those lines, especially on behalf of the middle class. The left characterizes the people who are angry, but there is righteous indignation, right? After the 2008 financial crisis, they were devastated. Stocks went down. A lot of folks who aren't that sophisticated sold everything and lost everything. And so they have a right to be very upset. And then the Federal Reserve kept rates at 0 for 10 years.
Yeah,
and that favored the wealthy as well.
And on that note, Congressman, a recent CBS poll shows that voters remember the economy under Trump as being significantly better than they feel it is under Biden now. Yet the White House obviously says that the economy is going well and people just aren't feeling it. Is President Biden going to be able to change Democrats' minds on this point by November, do you think?
The Democrats, you know, I think he'll have them solidly locked. A lot of this is just contentious and ideological, et cetera. But there's a huge distinction between the real economy and the stock market, right? The stock market has been going up for the rich. The top 10% of the wealthy own 90% of the stocks and bonds and pensions. So they're doing fine and dandy. But the real economy has to do with manufacturing and productivity. And we've offshored jobs to China for the past 20 years. And Trump came in on that kind of stuff. And Biden, it appears to be more tied with China as opposed to China. And so this is not missed by the middle class. And the wage rates, et cetera, have been going down for, you know, African American, Hispanic, blue collar workers, and the left doesn't seem to be taking the side of the middle class anymore. And, you know, just for empirical confirmation, the Magnificent Seven, you know, if you just go Google these wealthiest firms in the world right now, those firms are about as worth as much in market cap as all of Europe together. and they're all run by folks on the left, right? Elon's the exception, and he donates to both, but his plant is in China as well. And so the major rich, the 0.1% wealthy, are all on the left now. So there's been it's not really Republican Democrat anymore. There's been a major juxtaposition of, kind of the elite class, the elitist pedigreed education class, mixed in with a globalist versus kind of the American middle class. And there's more people in the middle class. So that's your mini forecast for the election.
Wow, that's a pretty interesting take on it. And I also want to look at this issue of the border, which in some senses it is a bipartisan issue, of course, but both parties have started having the same rhetoric in some sense. And yet, of course, there have been efforts that have failed in Congress, haven't been able to reach a deal yet. As a former congressman, how do you assess the bills that have been put forward and the rhetoric on the campaign trail? Yeah,
well, just that, it's just pure rhetoric. The Senate bill was, in my mind, a joke. It said, if you have more than 5,000 per day coming across the border invasion, then we'll shut down the border. Well, let's parse that one real slow motion, right? What it implies is they can shut down the border. So when you say it's bipartisan, it is not, right? The left and many on the Republican side who want the cheap labor, right? Who are owned by the big donor class, the globalist crew, those richies we were talking about. They're doing the bidding of the rich and not of the middle class. Of course, right. The immigration decimates the working poor. And so, it's a bunch of rhetoric. The president has the power to shut down the border immediately. He can do that. They don't want to do that. And so that bill was a disaster. It didn't do anything to detain or deport. And I think the number on Biden's watch is somewhere in the 10 million rounds. And the most devastating, just real quick, is when you got the mayor of New York City and Chicago on your side as Republicans. That's a pretty good place to be. Right. Yeah, fascinating points there. Thank you so much, Congressman Dave Bratt. Great to have you on. Thank you very much. And continuing with Super Tuesday, we hear some reactions from voters. NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on why they back their candidate and what their key concerns are.
Denver graphic artist Aaron Bauer says life was much better under Trump.
Orange man bad, but so what? I was making money. I was living. I was able to freaking make it. I'm struggling now.
Bauer considers himself a centrist.
I want my friends to be able to guard their pot fields with machine guns while they're hanging out with their gay buddies.
This Minneapolis mom also says Trump's the best man for the job.
He's done it before, and I think he can do it again. He's a good man. He's a fighter, and he'll help save this country.
But mom and daughter don't think alike this time around.
And I voted for Nikki Haley to cancel out Donald Trump because I think he's by far the worst candidate. So we have a divided household.
Another Haley supporter is deeply frustrated by the probable Biden and Trump rematch.
It's just disgraceful. We don't need two octogenarians in office, running for office.
This Denver voter says he's let down by Haley's performance and is looking to move to Canada or Paris.
Any French women who can speak the language want to put up with a 6-foot giant?
Biden voter Sarah Dumont says the country has changed a lot since Trump was president.
Living in Tennessee has become a lot harder for me and my rights as a woman and things like that.
Hotel business employee Robert Avila says the country needs a change in direction, that there's too much division.
And that's not how I was raised, raised to take care of each other, regardless of what your background is. And so that's why I think, that's why I voted for Nikki.
This Los Angeles resident supports Trump, saying the country needs a businessman to get the economy back on track.
Under Trump, it was kicking butt, man. It was going forward, full steam ahead.
Commercial real estate broker Zach Ledger says it pains him to say he will vote for Biden over Trump, but feels Trump downplayed the danger of COVID.
He acted like it wasn't a big deal. My dad died of it for Republican politics. It's just unconscionable.
This pair says they are both supporting Biden.
Yes, he is elderly, but you know what? I think he's done
some amazing things for the country right now.
For this retired teacher, abortion is a key issue.
I want to vote for Trump because I think he's conservative, he was pro-life, and I think he did a whole lot for the country when he was president.
The latest Real Clear polling averages show Trump with about a 2-point lead in a likely general election contest versus Biden. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
In North Carolina's race for governor, Josh Stein will face off against Republican Mark Robinson. The Democratic Attorney General and the Republican Lieutenant Governor won their respective gubernatorial primaries yesterday.
North Carolina's top spot is currently held by Democrat Roy Cooper, who will come to the end of his term. The primary results came as no surprise. All polls leading to the contest indicated Robinson was on track to win. Despite controlling the state legislature, Republicans haven't had a governor from their party in office since 2016. Robinson is a polarizing figure who's taken a strong stance against abortion and biological men who identify as women using women's bathrooms. He has a loyal following in the endorsement of former President Trump.
We are in a dangerous situation. Never before has America been in peril like she is right now.
Stein, too, was a favorite from the get-go. He's a familiar face on North Carolina's political scene with a history of consumer advocacy. Protecting abortion access in North Carolina is part of his platform.
Mark Robinson wants to enact a total ban with no exceptions. If I'm elected governor, I will veto any further restrictions on women's reproductive freedoms.
In presidential elections, the state has voted consistently Democrat until 2016. Trump clinched the state that year and again in 2020. This year, President Biden and former President Trump both emerged victorious in the North Carolina primaries. But there were more than 80,000 no-preference votes in the Democratic contest, protesting Biden's stance on Israel. This could prove important in the battleground state.
If Biden wins North Carolina, he will be reelected because there's no path to the presidency for a Republican without North Carolina.
And that's the reason why I'm looking forward for a victory in November, because the road to the White House runs directly through North Carolina.
Up ahead, Republican voters say Trump's major wins on Super Tuesday signal a united GOP. NTD's Jack Bradley talks to voters in Virginia.
Teachers, members of the military, and coaches all allegedly caught up in a human trafficking operation. Hear what role illegal immigrants play in the crime. More in just a moment here on NTD News Today.
We all know that words have power. They set things in motion
and make us happy or sad.
But there's one word that stands out because when people say it, lives are changed.
It's not a big word.
It's itsy bitsy.
It's only 3 little letters.
But when you say it,
the life of a kid like me can be changed.
So, what is this special word?
It may surprise you.
It's yes.
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 Yes to becoming a monthly supporter of Shriners Hospitals for Children.
That's right. Your monthly support allows the doctors and nurses at Shriners Hospitals for Children to give the most amazing care anywhere and change the lives of kids like me.
And me.
And me. Because people like you have said yes. Now I can play football.
And I can play catch.
And I can walk.
So what do you say? Will you say yes right now?
It's so easy.
All you have to do is pick up the phone or go to loveshriners.org right now and say yes. When you say yes to giving just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day, we'll send you this adorable Love to the Rescue blanket as a reminder of all the kids you're helping every day. My life is filled with possibility because of the monthly support of people just like you who called the number on your screen and said yes.
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 Your yes is making a difference in my life and the lives of so many other kids like me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for giving.
Please call or go online now. If operators are busy, call again or go to loveshriners.org to say yes right away.
With Life Alert, one touch of a button can get you help fast.
I've fallen and I can't get up.
Don't worry, help is on the way.
With any of Life Alert's 3 emergency systems, help can be summoned immediately, and batteries never need charging.
I was having a stroke, and I was scared to death.
If it weren't for Life Alert, I wouldn't be sitting here today.
Life Alert is a lifesaver.
My husband is alive because of Life Alert.
Life Alert is the lifesaver to keep me out of assisted living.
Life Alert saves a life every 11 minutes.
For a free Life Alert brochure, call 1-800-565-4808. That's 1-800-565-4808. Call now, 1-800-565-4808.
Join us on NTD Good Morning because we want you to stay informed.
Kickstart your morning with the latest you missed overnight.
Right, and don't forget that inspiration.
Absolutely, so let's shine some light on the good news too.
Tune in every weekday morning to NTD News.
Many Republican voters say Trump's major wins on Super Tuesday reflect a united GOP.
NTD's Jack Bradley is in Virginia talking to voters about why they support Trump and his policies.
I'm here in Arlington, Virginia, talking to voters about who they voted for on this Super Tuesday. And many Republicans and Democrats have shared that they did unite behind Nikki Haley, but we also heard many supporters of Donald Trump and Joe Biden as well. We spoke to someone who said that they supported Dean Phillips because they don't appreciate Biden's handling of the war in Gaza. They want an immediate ceasefire. And I attended an Arlington GOP watch party to see Super Tuesday and spoke to many attendees about why Donald Trump, and they think that he will unify the party. Take a look.
I support Donald Trump for the America First foreign policy. It's strengthening our own borders and then projecting strength to our friends and allies across the globe, but also sending a message to those who are authoritarian, people like Vladimir Putin in Russia, President Xi Jinping in China, and others, to say America will not stand for authoritarian regimes across the globe.
I voted for Donald Trump, and I believe it was my 6th or 7th time voting for him in the past few years. Prices are going up for everybody. The cost of living is going up. Myself, I've been married just about 2 years, and I know many people in my generation that are delaying key lifetime milestones like getting married, starting a family, buying their first property because of the current situation of the economics in this country.
I voted for Donald Trump today. I think Nikki Haley's probably running for president of Raytheon or Boeing or Lockheed Martin. She doesn't seem to be resonating with a whole lot of other parts of our party. And she's getting more money from Democrats than she is from Republicans at this point, and they're trying to sow division within the party, and the party is unified under Donald Trump like I have never seen it.
Donald Trump won all the states during Super Tuesday except for Vermont. Now, a spokesperson for Nikki Haley said that because she won Vermont, that it shows that the GOP is not as united as many people say it is under Trump. Reporting from Arlington, Virginia, Jack Bradley, NTD News.
On Thursday, President Biden will give the State of the Union address as he campaigns for re-election. The president will have an opportunity in this year's speech to detail his broader vision and policy priorities amid widespread concerns about his age. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the details.
For many viewers, President Biden's 2024 State of the Union address could be more about sharpness than substance. An Associated Press Nork Center for Public Affairs research poll indicates voters are concerned.
Americans of all stripes watch the State of the Union. A ton of people will see coverage of it. Part of, I think, what Biden would want to accomplish in this address would be to reassure the public in some way about his age.
63% of those polled say they're not very or not at all confident in Biden's mental fitness. 57% say that Trump lacks the acuity for the job.
Well, I think what people are going to be doing with this particular speech is less listening than watching. What does Biden look like? Is he able to get up on stage and walk smooth?
Biden will have to convince voters that he's capable of beating Trump and serving a second term.
So it's not really a State of the Union address where you say a little bit for everybody just to be sort of everybody's therapist or inspirational leader. You actually have to tell people how you're going to win an election here at home.
Biden also faces a challenge on the economic front. Pollsters and economists say the public isn't feeling a strong economy.
In terms of listening I think Biden and his team have been saying that we're making things better, but the American people don't necessarily feel better. So he needs to have some real proof. What have they accomplished, and how has it made lives for the average American better?
But public perception may come down to one thing.
I think that if he could just sort of, do well at the speech and have it be well received, my guess is he's not going to be graded that, that harshly. Now, if he has some sort of slip up, well, that'll be the story then.
Biden will give the State of the Union address March 7th at 9 p.m. Eastern. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
And President Biden's job approval is more consequential than ever in this election year.
Join NTD's Steve Lance for live coverage of Biden's State of the Union address and the Republican response tomorrow night. We'll have lawmakers and our reporter live on the Hill, also political analysis from Washington. Tune in Thursday at 8 p.m. ET.
An illegal immigrant is behind bars and charged with killing a Washington state trooper. The incident happened early Saturday morning in Marysville, north of Seattle. Investigators say Trooper Christopher Gadd died when a vehicle struck him on a highway. A spokesperson for the local sheriff's office says Raul Benitez Santana stayed at the scene Saturday and was arrested.
He is currently being held on $1 million bail. Immigration officials say the 33-year-old Santana is from Mexico and is in the United States illegally.
Trooper Gadd joined the force 2.5 years ago.
The 27-year-old leaves behind a wife and a daughter.
And a new report reveals that the Biden administration has approved secretive flights transporting hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants from Latin America to U.S. airports.
The report says the administration has flown in about 320,000 illegal immigrants with no right to enter the country since late 2022.
The Washington-based think tank called the Center for Immigration Studies published the report on March 4th.
The center says the effort is part of the administration's Lawful Pathways strategy to reduce the number of illegal crossings at the southern border.
The program allows asylum seekers to schedule an appointment using the Customs and Border Protection's phone app, known as CBP-1, instead of rushing to the Texas border. The White House did not respond to a request for comment.
Liberty University, a private Christian school in Virginia, has been ordered to pay a record $14 million fine. That's over failing to disclose information about crimes on its campus and for its treatment of sexual assault survivors.
The Department of Education issued the fine, by far the largest ever levied under the Clery Act, that law that requires colleges and universities that receive federal funding to collect data on campus crime and notify students of threats.
Federal investigators found many cases where crimes were misclassified or underreported, and that the school prematurely dismissed several allegations of sexual offenses as unfounded, which stopped some victims from reporting them at all.
Liberty settled a civil lawsuit filed by 12 women in 2022 after they accused the school of fostering an unsafe environment and mishandling cases of sexual assault and harassment.
Over 200 people were arrested in a massive human trafficking operation in Florida. Those apprehended include teachers, military members, and coaches.
We have a crisis at the border. And because of the crisis at the border, we have people that are victimizing illegal folks, forcing them into the sex trade because we allow these criminals in the country illegally.
Operation March Sadness 2024 resulted in the capture of 150 Johns, 66 prostitutes, and 12 others. Among those arrested, 21 were undocumented immigrants.
Notably, a volleyball coach and a high school teacher were apprehended. 13 potential trafficking victims were also identified.
The arrests included 3 Air Force personnel and a former sheriff's deputy.
2 teenage brothers were also arrested for attempting armed robbery during the operation.
And as the online world makes access to sexually exploitative materials that include children more available, a group of lawmakers are probing efforts to stop that.
The House Judiciary Subcommittee on Crime and Federal Government Surveillance holds a hearing called A Voice for the Voiceless, with measures to help victims of child sex abuse materials. Testimonies include that of former NFL player Tim Tebow and Jim Cole, a retired Homeland Security Investigations supervisor. Let's listen.
We're here today to discuss an important, a very important, vulnerable part of our population, the exploitation of children through child sexual abuse material. That's what has now come to be known as CSAM, and we'll probably refer to it today as CSAM. CSAM is defined as pictures and videos that capture the sexual abuse of children below the age of 18. The term child pornography is still widely used by the public, but it is more accurate to call it what it is, evidence of child sexual abuse. It is the exploitation of children through CSAM materials remains a serious issue and is actually growing both in the United States and abroad. Reports of CSAM continue to grow, with 3,000 reports in 1998, growing to more than 1 million in 2014 and 18.4 million in 2019. The United States has a duty to protect our children from becoming victims of these despicable acts. Our subcommittee conducted a hearing on this subject in September, and we heard from many experts and survivor advocates in the field. Today, we are continuing that discussion by shining light on the heroic efforts of identifying, rescuing, and giving a voice to these countless victims. While it seems like this evil is something that happens in foreign countries or in someone else's neighborhood, it is actually much closer than we think. Identifying children depicted in CSAM is crucial to stop their ongoing victimization and capture the offenders producing it and rescuing the victims. The work cannot be done just by our federal government. Joint efforts among federal, state, international, and non-government partners are essential for the identification and rescue of victims. You'll hear more today about Operation Renewed Hope from our witnesses, but I'd like to briefly touch on what it is and its impact. Operation Renewed Hope ran from July through August 4th, 2023. The operation was the first of its kind in the United States, conjoining federal law enforcement agencies with non-government organizations to identify, locate, and rescue victims of child exploitation. I understand Operation Renewed Hope is ongoing, and I hope more victims continue to be rescued and provided with the care they need and deserve. Our committee continues with Homeland Security investigations to enhance our knowledge and understanding of investigations related to human trafficking and child exploitation. We appreciate the work being done to identify victims from government entities such as HSI and nonprofits such as NCMEC and the Tim Tebow Foundation. These groups are leading the charge to identify and rescue children, and for that we thank them. Sunshine is the best disinfectant, and it's the best way to rid the world of these predators who abuse and exploit children. We must bring attention to these innocent victims, these children who are living in the shadows, longing to be discovered and rescued. We must not shy away from hard topics and hard conversations. We have got to do better. This hearing is a continuation of efforts that we started last fall, and I look forward to doing more to protect children in the United States and abroad. And with that, I yield back, and I now recognize the gentlelady from Pennsylvania, Ms. Dean, for her opening statement.
I thank the chairman, and thank you for convening this hearing, Chairman Biggs, and I thank the ranking member who could not be here, Sheila Jackson-Lee, because of her important work in this space. I thank her for asking me to sit in the chair in her absence. This hearing today on the identification of victims of child sexual abuse materials or videos or photos. I'm here as a legislator, as a member of Congress, but you might imagine I'm really here more importantly as a mother and a grandmother to 4 grandchildren. While the presence of child sexual abuse images and videos online is not new, it's not a new issue for this committee, the current scale and scope and complexity of the problem has now reached epidemic status globally, requiring a search for new solutions. The market for CSAM, child sexual abuse materials, sometimes I worry CSAM could be some other agency, but we have to say what it is. Child sexual abuse materials far exceeds existing resources necessary to bring purveyors and consumers of the images to justice. Moreover, we have yet to fully address the quantum of resources and the manpower necessary to identify and rescue child victims of these heinous crimes. The internet and digital devices have become the tools of the trade for child predators, including those who produce, process, and distribute child sexual abuse material, or groom, extort, or coerce children to produce images and videos themselves. Perpetrators of this repulsive set of crimes frequently operate with impunity, recording the commission of unthinkable acts on their young victims and trading the images for sport, often knowing that their identities and locations are cloaked behind a wall of encryption. Identifying all victims seen in child sexual abuse materials is of the utmost importance. Behind these images, videos, and live streams are children who may still be the victim of continuing abuse and suffering, hoping to be found, hoping to be rescued. While Congress certainly has the authority to enact more federal legislation, victims and survivors need help today. That is why we must fully support the various federal initiatives and partnerships already in place to help identify, locate, and rescue victims. In other words, if members of this body truly care about the safety of our children, truly care about CSAM victims and the need to prevent the victimization of more children, we will provide the necessary resources, the funding to law enforcement and to nonprofits who are in this critical space.
Up ahead, what's being done to help child sexual abuse victims? Hear expert testimony after the break.
First time I came in here was Monday, and today is Thursday.
Shen Yun Creations, the streaming platform from Shen Yun, featuring world-class dance, past programs, and all original music. Masterclasses, behind the scenes, comedy, and more. Explore ShenYunCreations.com.
I'm Steve Lance. Join me live for special coverage of the 2024 State of the Union Address and the Republican response. A crisis on the southern border, inflation soaring, and global conflicts threatening the free world. President Biden's job approval more consequential than ever this election year. Join us Thursday, March 7th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on NTD News.
We're tuned into a House committee hearing on efforts to protect children from exploitation.
The hearing is called A Voice for the Voiceless and looks at ways to help victims of child sex abuse materials. Let's listen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for holding this important hearing and for shining a light on efforts to combat the sexual exploitation of children. Law enforcement experts and victims advocates have reported that advancements in technology have led to an explosion of child sex abuse material, known as CSAM, available and distributed online. Horrific photographs and videos depicting depraved acts against children are now increasingly readily available through virtually every internet-based technology, including social networking platforms, file-sharing sites, gaming devices, and mobile apps. A demand for new and more egregious images and videos drives the market for this material, resulting in the continued abuse and exploitation of children. Since the sexual violence depicted in these images and videos is a record of the victimization and suffering of a child, it is important that law enforcement make the identification of victims of child sexual abuse material a priority. To that end, Congress must provide sufficient resources and funding to those agencies and organizations charged with identifying, locating, and rescuing these children. The importance of victim identification is multifaceted. To begin with, because child sexual abuse material is tangible evidence of sexual abuse crime, victim identification enables the rescue of a victimized child. Not only are victims removed from harmful environments, but following removal, they can be connected to the services, support, and care they need to heal and rebuild their lives. Victim identification also facilitates justice for victims. Tracing digital footprints back to producers and distributors of the images, as well as perpetrators of the abuse, ensuring that they are prosecuted and held accountable for their crimes. Federal law enforcement agencies, including the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of Justice, combat CSAM cases through targeted enforcement actions, investigative initiatives, and victim assistance programs. While these agencies work tirelessly in their investigations to track down perpetrators involved in the production and distribution of this material, they are also committed to identifying and locating victims.
We're going to begin now with Mr. Tebow. Please, your 5 minutes.
Chairman Biggs, Ranking Member Nadler, Ms. Stein, honorable members of the committee, thank you guys so much for having me. Camille, Jim, John, so grateful for you guys and so honored to be here with you and humbled to be beside you. My name is Tim Tebow, and as Chairman Biggs stated, I was fortunate to be and humbled to be the chairman and the founder of the Tim Tebow Foundation, and we exist to bring faith, hope, and love to those needing a brighter day in their darkest hour of need. To sum it up, we strive to fight for people that can't fight for themselves. Some of you may know me from sports, but honestly, more of you probably know me from getting cut from a bunch of sports teams, as Ms. Dean mentioned earlier. So thanks, Ms. Dean. We can talk about that later. It's all good. But honestly, why we're here today is to talk about the MVP. Not the MVP I chased most of my life. Couldn't get, by the way, but chased. Not the MVP most of you are probably thinking, no, not the most valuable player. A more important MVP, the most vulnerable people. That's why we're here today. A year and a half ago, this awesome lady to my left, Camille Cooper, joined our team, and I asked Camille, I said, Camille, what breaks your heart the most? And she wrote down the number 20,000. And I said, what does that mean? And she said, it's a problem. I said, what problem is that? It's the 20,000 boys and girls that have been abused and raped, and their images and videos have been captured, but nobody has been able to identify them. They're unknown. Until someone knows them, how could somebody rescue them? And I knew that day that my heart was broken and my eyes were open, and we had to do something. So I said, Camille, what do you think's the best approach? And she said, bring the best teams and players together. So we convened a meeting in Lyon, France, with amazing frontline heroes. Homeland Security, Interpol, Europol, NCMEC, ICMEC, ONIMI, Google, so many people and many more came to the table with really two goals. The first one, how many boys and girls are unknown, are unidentified? And it wasn't 20,000. It was over 50,000. And the second goal is how do we protect them? And that's where Operation Renewed Hope was born, led by HSI just a few miles away from here, and so many partners from around the world. And in 15 days, they were able to identify 316 boys and girls. 316 boys and girls. It was an incredible operation, but that's a tiny dent in what we're called to get to. It was amazing work, but it was so small in comparison. And so why we're here today is to be able to ask you to say yes to a bill that we're going to present. And this bill really has one goal: to build a rescue team. Because there's so many frontline warriors and heroes, but there's just not enough. And we need to support them, and we need more of them to get to these 50,000 boys and girls. So this bill is strictly to create a rescue team that has the funding, the support, the training, the technology, so that they can get to these 50,000. You know, I've had the privilege of playing for a lot of sports teams in my life. And almost all of them, we've had incredible resources to give us a better chance at winning a game, something that ultimately, as much as we care about it, doesn't matter. Why would we not give as much, if not more, resources to the frontline heroes that are going after the most vulnerable boys and girls on the planet? You see, when Operation Renewed Hope identified that 316, and out of all those that were rescued, more than half of them were right here in the U.S. And when you extrapolate those numbers, that means that there's thousands of boys and girls that are starving for hope in our backyard. And we have the chance to bring hope to those that are starving for it, if we're willing. But honestly, my words will probably fall flat today. So instead of hearing from me, I would rather you hear from one of my heroes, a young girl who went through extreme abuse for 7 years, and almost every night she got raped for 7 years. And in the middle of her abuse, this is what she writes: "Rescue me, help me. Monsters are chasing. Can't you see? Monsters are whispering. Can't you hear? Monsters are shouting, you're nothing. Can't you feel my pain? Monsters are pushing. End it all, just jump. Can't you hear all the whys I'm asking? Monsters are laughing. You're all alone in this. Can someone please rescue me?" This girl and thousands of boys and girls just like her, they're calling out to you and to me. And how many times in my life have I missed the call? Have I missed the mark? Unfortunately, too many. But would today be a day that we wouldn't miss the mark, that we would hear her cries, that we would hear her call, and we would answer the call? Because every single one of those boys and girls is worth us answering the call and doing everything we can so that they can experience the faith, hope, and love that they deserve. Not the bondage and torture that they're in right now. I believe if we build that rescue team, we will have a chance of getting to every one of those boys and girls. I got a message last night from a girl who has been rescued, and she said, "Thank you so much for speaking up for us." And it was humbling to get that. But if all we do today is speak, if all I do is speak, I also miss the mark. We have to do more than just talk about it. We have to act on it and be about it. Thank you for having me, and God bless.
Thank you, Mr. Tebow.
Still to come, the director of the United Nations Atomic Watchdog arrives in Russia for talks on nuclear safety in Ukraine. Europe's largest nuclear power plant is at risk amid fighting.
And in Germany, a lobby group sounding the alarm on the country's power grid. That's after a suspected arson attack on a Tesla plant resulted in a power cut. More shortly here on NTD News Today.
The biggest investigation in FBI history.
There were more than 1,100 arrests.
I sacrificed my dream job to share this information with the American people.
Those involved must be held accountable.
He's an innocent man.
It's going to change narratives no matter what your political perspective is.
1 in 5 children worldwide are faced with the reality of living without food. No family dinners, no special treats, not enough energy to play. All around the world, hunger is affecting children's physical and mental health. Toddlers are suffering from acute malnutrition, which stunts their growth. Kids are forced to drop out of school so they can help support their families. Conflict, inflation, and climate have ignited the worst famine in our lifetime. And we are fed up. Fed up that hunger devours dreams. Fed up that hunger destroys joy. Fed up with the fact that hunger eats childhood. Help us feed the futures of children all over the world by visiting getfedupnow.org. For as little as $10 a month, you can join Save the Children as we support children and families in desperate need of our help. Now is the time to get fed up and give back. When you join the cause, your $10 monthly donation can help communities in need of life-saving treatments and nutrients, prevent children from dropping out of school, support our work with communities and governments to help children go from short-term surviving to long-term thriving. And now, thanks to special government grants, every dollar you give can multiply up to 10 times the impact. That means more food, water, medicine, and help for kids around the world. You'll also receive a free tote bag to share your support for children in need. Having your childhood eaten away by hunger is unimaginable. Get fed up. Call us now or visit getfedupnow.org.
Is it time yet?
It's time.
Let's start time for dinner.
Oh, terrific.
Donating pet food is one of the many ways you can help families in your community. Pets and people belong together. Learn more at petsandpeopletogether.org.
And now for a shift in gears, we have some short headlines from Sweden, Germany, and other European countries. Russia today dismissed arrest warrants issued by the International Criminal Court, or ICC. The warrants are for two high-ranking Russian military figures accusing them of war crimes against Ukrainian civilians.
Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova said the court order has no significance for Russia and that Moscow does not recognize the authority of the ICC.
On Tuesday, the court announced warrants for two top Russian commanders, Sergei Kobolash and Viktor Sokolov. They are accused of directing attacks at civilians in Ukraine and crimes against humanity.
I would just like to remind you that both Russia and many other countries do not participate in this so-called court. And the next throw-ins, or throw-outs I should say, of this institution have no significance for us and are legally void.
The director of the United Nations Atomic Watchdog arrived in Russia today for talks on nuclear safety in Ukraine. Europe's largest nuclear power plant is at risk amid fighting.
The International Atomic Energy Agency has repeatedly expressed alarm about the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. The plant has repeatedly been caught in the crossfire since Russia invaded Ukraine in February 2022.
Russian forces are in control of the facility. The Atomic Agency's Director General is expected to meet Russian President Vladimir Putin today. The plant's 6 reactors have been shut down for months.
But it still needs power and qualified staff to operate crucial cooling systems and other safety systems. The Atomic Agency's chief last met with Putin in October 2022.
Swedish and Finnish Marines engaged in amphibious operations from a U.S. Navy warship in the Norwegian Arctic. The maneuvers are part of preparation for the Nordic Response 2024 exercise.
Finland joined NATO in April 2023 following decades of military non-alignment. The country shares an 830-mile border with Russia. Neighboring Sweden is currently finalizing formalities to enter the military alliance as its 32nd member.
Both Sweden and Finland developed strong ties with NATO after the end of the Cold War. However, public opinion remained firmly against full membership until Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
The Pan-Nordic drill is part of Steadfast Defender 24, NATO's biggest exercises in decades. Up to 90,000 troops will participate over several months.
And an independent German lobby group called on the government today to better protect businesses against power cuts. Task Force AG Caritas says the power grid must remain operational even when one line is disrupted, and that a power cut should never have happened at a Tesla plant outside Berlin after an arson attack.
A far-left militant organization calling itself the Volcano Group claimed responsibility. A letter from the group accuses Tesla of harming the earth and workers.
Police are still investigating. Tesla CEO Elon Musk condemned the incident on X. Camera footage captured an avalanche falling down a mountain in Chamonix, France, Tuesday.
Amateur video shows snow rolling down a mountain and coming close to a group of 6 skiers.
The mountain guide and ski instructor who recorded the footage said nobody was hurt. He added that a Chamonix High Mountain police helicopter was on site within minutes of the event.
They also found no signs of casualties after scanning the area.
And if you have any news tips or feedback for our show, please feel free to email us at news.today@ntd.com.
And be sure to stick around for NTD Newsroom at 3 p.m. Eastern. We'll cover more stories from the U.S. and around the world.
There are real consequences to controlled media. And NTD's founders know them firsthand. Our freedom of thought is the price. This is the lesson that guides us in everything we do.
So there's the tear gas there.
We know the value of a free society. And we take seriously the responsibility to preserve it. We are NTD.
If you're watching this, I didn't make it. Thanks to people like you and the American Heart Association, my family never had to see this video. I was a healthy 47-year-old, no symptoms. But then my doctor discovered I had a bad heart valve that was beyond repair. The scariest day of my life was when I was sitting on a gurney as I looked and my wife was at my side and my kids had me surrounded. Deep down, you know, this could be it. This could be all there is.
Not having him around for Riley to grow up with and have that papa figure in his life, that would have been hard.
This little heart valve did something really big. It saved my life. I wouldn't be here today without it. The research for this heart valve was funded by the American Heart Association. And that's why I'm asking you to become a monthly donor for just $19 a month. When you do, you'll help fund the next medical breakthrough that could save your life or the life of someone you love. You'll also provide life-saving CPR training and help certify hospitals to give the best care to those who have had a heart attack or stroke. When you give $19 a month, we'll send you a t-shirt just like this one. From the moment you put it on, you'll help raise awareness for heart disease and stroke. Since my surgery, I had a son get married. I had a daughter graduate high school. I had another daughter give birth to a precious boy. I would have missed all that. And that's why it's personal for me.
We're very thankful for everyone who is a donor because it gives us more time.
Every 40 seconds, someone has a heart attack. The next person you help save could be someone you love or even you. Become a monthly donor today by calling or going to helpheart.org because it's personal.
Hi everyone watching at home. We're here to remind you that if you or someone you know were injured in an accident that was not your fault, listen up. We have live agents available right now to answer your questions and tell you how much your case is potentially worth. Hi, I'm Gina Bellich, here with spokesman and TV personality Tom Mustin with us in the Help Center. So Tom, phones are really busy over there. Tell us what kind of calls you're seeing.
Well, Gina, first off, thank you for having me here in the call center with you. We always enjoy talking to the viewers and getting folks the compensation that they deserve. You know, we're seeing calls about all kinds of accidents, but the most common by far has been car accidents. So if you or someone you know were injured in an accident that was not your fault, give us a call right now. You'll speak with a live person. They'll answer any questions you have and tell you if you have a case and how much your case is potentially worth.
Thanks, Tom. All right, folks at home, you heard it. Take advantage of this opportunity and call now.
Welcome to NTD News Today.
Here are our top stories.
A Trump-Biden rematch in November seems certain after their overnight sweeps. Key takeaways from Super Tuesday contests.
Nikki Haley is dropping out of the race. Hear what she said about her campaign and former President Trump.
In Georgia, a Senate committee hearing is underway to examine allegations against Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis. Defense attorney Ashley Merchant is the first to testify.
On Thursday, President Joe Biden will give the State of the Union address. The speech could be an opportunity for the president to ease widespread concerns over his age and mental fitness.
Christian school Liberty University faces a record fine of $14 million for student safety violations. More on the decision by the U.S. Department of Education.
A gray whale species that vanished from the Atlantic Ocean over 2 centuries ago is spotted off Massachusetts. We have footage of what scientists call a wild and exciting discovery.
This is NTD News Today, live from our NTD Global Headquarters. Here are Stephania Cox and Chris Beers.
Hi, I'm David Lamb, sitting in for Chris Beers.
And to begin the show, in Georgia, a state Senate committee is holding a hearing in their probe into Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis.
The first witness to testify is Ashley Merchant. She is the defense attorney representing former Trump campaign official Mike Roman in the Georgia RICO case.
Fair to say any of the documents you have provided to our committee were things that you obtained outside of that formal discovery process and are not subject to any protective order?
Yes, I did not. Nothing that was subject to the subpoena or that I provided was something that I got from the state, and nothing was subject to that protective order. I went through and was very clear on that.
Merchant initially launched the allegations of Willis's allegedly improper relationship with Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade.
The committee of 6 Republicans and 3 Democrats is investigating whether Willis showed a potential conflict of interest or misused public funds in her relationship with Wade.
The panel has requested copies of key documents that Merchant used as evidence. The committee chairman said lawmakers intend to dig into any credible allegations, no matter how long the investigation takes.
The lawmakers also plan to subpoena additional witnesses. The panel can amend Georgia law or create new laws, but lacks the power to directly sanction Willis.
Following her losses on Super Tuesday, Nikki Haley announces that she's dropping out of the race.
Hear her speech from Charleston, South Carolina, earlier this morning.
I am filled with the gratitude for the outpouring of support we've received from all across our great country. But the time has now come to suspend my campaign. I said I wanted Americans to have their voices heard. I have done that. I have no regrets.
Haley's exit means former President Trump is now the presumptive Republican nominee. This also makes 2024 one of the fastest narrowing primary fields in recent history.
In her speech, Haley didn't endorse Trump, but she congratulated him on becoming the presumptive nominee and wished him well. Haley also says she hopes Trump can earn the support of voters who didn't vote for him.
The former candidate also sent out a message of unity. She said, "Our country is too precious to let our differences divide us."
Trump reacted to Haley's announcement. He posted on Truth Social, quote, "Nikki Haley got trounced last night in record-setting fashion. At this point, I hope she stays in the race and fights it out until the end."
And people in New York City are reacting to the news of Nikki Haley dropping out of the race. Take a look.
I think that Nikki was a great option, and I had a lot of hope in her, and as a woman, I support women, and I'm just sorry she dropped out. I wish she would have been able to stick it out.
It was expected, so we thought Donald Trump was going to win anyways, so she was just holding on to the one more position. but she's not going to win.
I don't think it would have made much difference if she had stayed in. But now it seems like there are only two candidates left, one Republican, one Democratic.
Well, if she drop out, there's more chance with Trump. What do you think? yeah. So yeah. I like Trump. I like him. Yeah. Trump don't play that. Trump said America first.
Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell endorsed former President Trump today as the Republican nominee for president. The move followed Nikki Haley, as you just heard, ending her campaign for the GOP nomination.
In his statement, McConnell said Trump has earned the support of Republican voters and therefore will also have his support. McConnell and Trump have not spoken in more than 3 years after the senator blamed Trump for the January 6th attack on the Capitol.
Well, with results in from the 16 states and one territory, as we know, the nation's biggest day of primary voting has come to a close.
Here are some of the big takeaways from Super Tuesday.
President Biden and former President Trump dominated their respective Super Tuesday races. The only surprise for Republicans came in Vermont, where former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley registered her biggest win so far. Until Tuesday, the only other contest she had won was in Washington, D.C. Haley's campaign after her victory stated today there remains a large block of Republican primary voters who are expressing deep concerns about Donald Trump. That is not the unity our party needs for success. But Trump swept all other Super Tuesday states. Haley will soon have to make a decision about pressing forward in the Republican race. Trump registered big wins in blue states like California and Virginia, further securing his frontrunner position for the GOP presidential nominee.
Call it Super Tuesday for a reason. This is a big one. And they tell me, the pundits and otherwise, that there's never been one like this. There's never been.
On the Democratic side, Biden's campaign wasn't immune to surprises either. The president finished behind long-shot candidate and businessman Jason Palmer in the American Samoa caucuses. Since American Samoa is a U.S. territory, not a state, they will not get to vote in the November election. But Palmer said his victory sends a message to Washington that a president who will advocate for American Samoa is long overdue. A more concerning vulnerability for Biden will be the growing uncommitted movement. In Minnesota, over 45,000 ballots in the Democratic primary were marked uncommitted. That's the largest number of uncommitted votes in a Democratic primary after Michigan's more than 100,000. Biden also faced significant uncommitted votes in Colorado, North Carolina, Massachusetts, Alabama, and Tennessee. These votes won't hurt Biden's impending nomination, but they do indicate dissatisfaction among some Democratic voters with the incumbent president.
And here to discuss this and more is Drew Allen, the author of America's Last Stand and host of the Drew Allen Show podcast. Drew, welcome. Great to have you with us. Now, to begin with, Haley's concession, does it alter anything in the race significantly?
No, it doesn't. It was a long time coming that she was going to make her exit. And, let's face it. I mean, most of her supporters, whether it was winning in Vermont, right, the home of Bernie Sanders, or D.C., it was, the swamp, and it was Democrats, actually, who helped give her those victories. I mean, Vermont's an open primary. I mean, you could have ridden in on a horse from Canada and voted for Nikki Haley.
And what did you make of the tone of Trump's speech last night? What does it tell you about how he's feeling at the moment?
Well, look, I think that he is very serious about fixing the country, saving the country, to be honest. I mean, I've heard him speak recently at CPAC, and I would say this about Trump. I think that his tone is one that is capable of unifying the country. I think if you block out the media nonsense, his message is a unifying message. I mean, he's kind of transcending factionalism, to be honest, if you will, because the concerns that we have in America, they're all of our concerns. They're not Democrat problems and Republican problems. The border, the economy, all these things resonate with the American people who just want to put food on the table.
Yeah, and now the White House's response to Trump's results, they leaned into their rhetoric around protecting democracy in regards to Trump. Given the recent legal decisions about Trump's cases and how people are responding to them, how do you think that this message is landing? Will it work for Democrats going forward?
No, it hasn't worked so far, to be honest. I mean, they don't have anywhere else to go, though, so they have to double down on this strategy of just accusing Trump of being Hitler, of being, this evil villain, this dictator that's a threat to democracy. When the Democrats say, because I speak fluent Democrat, when they say he's a threat to democracy, they mean he's a threat to the Democrat Party. He's a threat to the establishment, the way things have been done in Washington, D.C., which is grifting off of the American taxpayer. So, No, I mean, I don't think it's resonating because we just had a 9-0 decision from the Supreme Court. And now what are they going to say? Ketanji Brown Jackson and the left, the left-leaning members of the court, those justices, are they illegitimate now too? I mean, it's just absurd. I mean, they've gone so far left. It's so radical that the American people, enough of them are saying this is wrong.
And keeping our eyes on the Democratic Party for a moment, there was speculation that Michelle Obama may swoop in at the last minute, but she's come out saying she definitely doesn't plan to do that. How foolproof is a comment like that, considering the political climate right now regarding Biden?
Sure. Well, look, generally speaking, I would say it's almost a prerequisite to say you're not going to run for president before you run for president. But in Michelle Obama's case, I've been an outlier saying that they're not going to run her. I mean, people that think that Joe Biden wasn't going to be the candidate are thinking like rational human beings. They're not thinking like Democrats who have absolute control over this person and just want to get him across the finish line if they can. It's not an easy process to just take out Joe Biden and put somebody else in. So no, I think that Michelle Obama, she will not be running. She doesn't really have it in her. And frankly, we haven't seen what kind of politician she'd be. And I can tell you, it wouldn't be a very successful one.
Drew Allen, author of America's Last Stand and host of the Drew Allen Show podcast, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now, Republican Steve Garvey, a former baseball star, and Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff will compete in November for the U.S. Senate seat long held by the late Dianne Feinstein. NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on that contest.
It's a rare opportunity for the GOP to compete in a marquee statewide race in the Democratic stronghold. California puts all candidates, regardless of party, on the same primary ballot, and the two who get the most votes advance to the general election. That means Republicans are sometimes shut out of high-profile statewide races, given the grip Democrats hold on the state. Garvey beat two Democratic Congresswomen, Representatives Katie Porter and Barbara Lee, to secure a place on the general election ballot, despite raising a fraction of what his opponents did and airing no TV ads. Garvey celebrated with cheering supporters at a hotel in Palm Desert, his hometown. He warned Congressman Schiff not to underestimate him despite the state's Democratic tilt. The former Major League Baseball MVP said he would run a campaign that would appeal across party lines, focusing on rising crime rates in cities.
If you're frightened by the brazen crime that runs rampant in our cities because of those who have turned their back on our police, then join our campaign.
And inflation.
If you're struggling to pay bills at your kitchen table and only buying $10 of gas instead of 10 gallons, then come join us.
Democrats are expected to easily hold the Senate seat in November. A Republican hasn't won a Senate race in California since 1988. But Garvey brushes aside any predictions that he will strike out in a general election, saying, "Know this, it ain't over till it's over." In Texas, Congressman Colin Allred has won the Democratic nomination to take on Republican Senator Ted Cruz. Allred defeated State Senator Roland Gutierrez and 7 other contenders in the Democratic primary Tuesday. And by crossing the 50% threshold, he avoids an automatic primary runoff in May. Allred is a former NFL player who first won his Dallas area seat by ousting a Republican incumbent in a hard-fought 2018 race. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has collected enough signatures to appear on the ballot in Nevada. Kennedy's campaign says they have gathered more than 15,000 signatures. That's more than the approximately 10,000 signatures the campaign has said it would need to qualify for ballot access in that state.
Nevada is a key battleground state that was decided by close margins in the 2020 presidential election. Kennedy has also qualified to appear on the ballot in Utah and gathered enough signatures to qualify in New Hampshire and Hawaii.
Coming up, the RNC's stance on Trump's legal bills is in the spotlight. Hear why a measure to prevent them from being paid from party resources has been abandoned.
Removing liability protection for COVID vaccine manufacturers, a new bill aims to do just that. Americans injured by the shots would then be able to sue the companies. More in just a moment here on NTD News Today.
You know, these kids grow so fast. cherish every little moment you get with them. Tyler, he's 10, and little Daryl, he's 12. Being a single dad, it is hard, really hard. I've been there since day one. I know how it is, not to have nothing. I don't really get paid much. There's been times I've been hungry, made sure they ate. There ain't a thing I wouldn't do for them.
Millions of our neighbors are facing hunger. Rising food prices are making it tougher to put food on the table. Call or go online right now to join Feeding America with your gift of just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day. Together, thanks to a nationwide network of food banks, dedicated volunteers, and the monthly support of people like you, we can fill plates with nutritious food for families across America.
At least now I know I gotta, help if I need it.
1 in 5 children face hunger in America, and food costs are rising. We are getting closer to the day when no one in America faces hunger, but we can't do it without you. Call or go online now. Visit helpfeedingamerica.org and give $19 a month, just 63 cents a day. 98% of donations go directly to help millions of people facing hunger, from coast to coast and in your own community. And when you use your credit card, you'll receive this exclusive canvas grocery bag to show you're a part of a movement working together to ensure that everyone has the food and resources we all need to thrive.
If you're hungry, if they got it, they'll feed you. People just gotta realize, places like this do exist that will help you.
Please call now or make your monthly donation at helpfeedingamerica.org. Working together, we can end hunger in America.
When I drink it, the first thing was I feel the warmth in my tummy. It's kind of like gently radiating out, a kind of a very comforting warmth. And it was really good, actually. I felt much better. I did feel, actually, an effect. And I find that it is actually better when I take it regularly.
It's actually steamed and dried 9 times. And so it's really, the essence is really extracted.
Then the second time, I tried it really like on an empty stomach and just 2 teaspoons of it and over a few times. And wow, that was a big difference because suddenly I could feel, wow, I was very good energized. I didn't have to eat. I could work outside in the garden for a couple of hours and I still felt very well. And I was impressed by that. So I think it's a good product.
On Capitol Hill, lawmakers are rushing to pass a spending package ahead of a possible government shutdown on Friday. The House is expected to vote on several key bills today. The Senate must take up the measures after the House acts.
The time crunch is even tighter, with President Biden's State of the Union address taking up significant time on Thursday. But lawmakers are confident the spending package will be passed.
It's backed by top Democrats and Republicans in both chambers. The legislation funds critical departments and agencies, including justice, transportation, commerce, and agriculture.
And the Federal Reserve is in no rush to cut interest rates. That's according to Fed Chair Jerome Powell's written testimony submitted to congressional lawmakers.
The sentiment means more pain for Americans who have already faced almost 2 years of elevated borrowing costs on everything from car loans to mortgages.
Powell is on Capitol Hill this week to give a semi-annual report on the central bank's actions since the summer. He appears before a House committee Wednesday morning and a Senate panel Thursday.
Powell's written remarks cheer inflation's remarkable slowdown over the past year, but he says the economic outlook is uncertain and reaching the Federal Reserve's 2% inflation goal is not assured. On Thursday, President Biden will give the State of the Union address as he campaigns for re-election. The president will have an opportunity in this year's speech to detail his broader vision and policy priorities amid widespread concerns about his age. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the details.
For many viewers, President Biden's 2024 State of the Union address could be more about sharpness than substance. An Associated Press Nork Center for Public Affairs research poll indicates voters are concerned.
But Americans of all stripes watch the State of the Union. A ton of people will see coverage of it. And you know, part of, I think, what Biden would want to accomplish in this address would be to reassure the public in some way about his age.
63% of those polled say they're not very or not at all confident in Biden's mental fitness. 57% say that Trump lacks the acuity for the job.
Well, I think what people are going to be doing with this particular speech is less listening than watching. What does Biden look like? Is he able to get up on stage and walk smooth?
Biden will have to convince voters that he's capable of beating Trump and serving a second term.
So it's not really a State of the Union address where you say a little bit for everybody just to be sort of everybody's therapist or inspirational leader. You actually have to tell people how you're going to win an election here at home.
Biden also faces a challenge on the economic front. Pollsters and economists say the public isn't feeling a strong economy.
In terms of listening, I think Biden and his team have been saying that we're making things better, but the American people don't necessarily feel better. So he needs to have some real proof. What have they accomplished, and how has it made lives for the average American better?
But public perception may come down to one thing.
I think that if he can just sort of, do well at the speech and have it be well received, my guess is he's not going to be graded that, that harshly. Now, if he has some sort of slip up, well, that'll be the story then.
Biden will give the State of the Union address March 7th at 9 p.m. Eastern. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
President Biden's job approval is more consequential than ever in this election year.
Join NTD's Steve Lance for live coverage of Biden's State of the Union address and the Republican response tomorrow night. We'll have lawmakers and our reporter live on the Hill. Also, political analysis from Washington. Tune in Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern.
And Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg is pushing back on Trump's bid to block Michael Cohen from testifying at this month's so-called hush money trial. In a filing yesterday, the DA's office opposed several of Trump's motions to prevent jurors from seeing certain evidence in the case. That includes Cohen's testimony and the Access Hollywood tape. Bragg says Trump's argument was inflammatory and read, quote, more like a press release than a legal filing. He also says Trump is not entitled to what he called alternative facts.
The DA's filing stated Cohen will testify that he has pleaded guilty to making false statements in the past and said prosecutors often build cases around individuals whose misconduct may affect their credibility. During Trump's civil fraud trial, Cohen admitted to having lied under oath to Congress.
Prosecutors allege Trump reimbursed Cohen and falsified business records to disguise a payment to an adult film actress to silence allegations of an affair. Trump has denied any affair or wrongdoing and has pleaded not guilty. The trial is set to begin March 25th.
The Republican National Committee will meet on Friday to elect a new chair, but they won't vote on resolutions to ban RNC funding for Trump's legal bills.
Henry Barber, the Mississippi committee member who drafted the resolutions, has said they didn't gather enough support from states for a vote.
Despite assurance from Trump's campaign that he won't seek RNC help for legal expenses, some remain skeptical.
And Trump is the party's presumptive nominee after rival Nikki Haley dropped out earlier today. Senator Robert Menendez and his wife Nadine are facing criminal charges for allegedly trying to conceal a bribery scheme. Yesterday, federal prosecutors in Manhattan hit the couple with a superseding indictment for obstruction of justice. Menendez, a Democrat from New Jersey, and his wife are accused of accepting bribes from businessmen in the form of mortgage payments, gold bars, and a luxury car. Prosecutors say in return, Menendez worked to benefit the businessman, including with business interests in Egypt, and even intervened in a criminal case and a federal investigation.
Bob and Nadine Menendez were originally indicted in September for corruption. Both pleaded not guilty to the earlier charges. Menendez has stepped down as chair of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, but he's refused to resign, calling the charges a smear campaign.
A new bill introduced Wednesday would strip COVID-19 vaccine makers of liability protection. Americans injured by the shots would then be able to sue the companies. Congressman Chip Roy proposed the bill. It would retroactively remove protections for COVID-19 vaccine manufacturers.
The Public Readiness and Emergency Preparedness Act currently shields vaccine makers and administrators from liability. There are exceptions in cases of death or serious injury due to willful conduct.
Willful misconduct right there, but Roy argues that the bill empowers Americans to seek justice for vaccine-related injuries and challenges federal liability protections. An illegal immigrant is behind bars and charged with killing a Washington state trooper. The incident happened early Saturday morning in Marysville, north of Seattle. Investigators say Trooper Christopher Gadd died when a vehicle struck him on a highway. A spokesperson for the local sheriff's office says Raul Benitez Santana stayed at the scene Saturday and was arrested.
He is currently being held on $1 million bail. Immigration officials say the 33-year-old Santana is from Mexico and is in the United States illegally.
Trooper Gadd joined the force 2.5 years ago.
The 27-year-old leaves behind a wife and a daughter.
A new report reveals that the Biden administration has approved secretive flights transporting hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants from Latin America to U.S. airports.
The report says the administration has flown in about 320,000 illegal immigrants with no right to enter the country since late 2022.
The Washington-based think tank called the Center for Immigration Studies published the report on March 4th.
The center says the effort is part of the administration's lawful pathway strategy to reduce the number of illegal crossings at the southern border.
The program allows asylum seekers to schedule an appointment using the Customs and Border Protection's phone app, known as CBP One, instead of rushing to the Texas border. The White House did not respond to a request for comment.
Liberty University, a private Christian school in Virginia, has been ordered to pay a record $14 million fine. That's over failing to disclose information about crimes on its campus and for its treatment of sexual assault survivors.
The Department of Education issued the fine, by far the largest ever levied under the Clary Act, that law that requires colleges and universities that receive federal funding to collect data on campus crime and notify students of threats.
Federal investigators found many cases where crimes were misclassified or underreported, and that the school prematurely dismissed several allegations of sexual offenses as unfounded, which stopped some victims from reporting them at all.
Liberty settled a civil lawsuit filed by 12 women in 2022 after they accused the school of fostering an unsafe environment and mishandling cases of sexual assault and harassment.
Over 200 people were arrested in a massive human trafficking operation in Florida. Those apprehended included teachers, military members, and coaches.
We have a crisis at the border. And because of the crisis at the border, we have people that are victimizing illegal folks, forcing them into the sex trade because we allow these criminals in the country illegally.
Operation March Sadness 2024 resulted in the capture of 150 Johns, 66 prostitutes, and 12 others. Among those arrested, 21 were undocumented immigrants.
Notably, a volleyball coach and a high school teacher were apprehended. 13 potential trafficking victims were also identified.
The arrests included 3 Air Force personnel and a former sheriff's deputy.
2 teenage brothers were also arrested for attempting armed robbery during the operation.
And in Washington state, must-see moments caught on camera after a small plane in distress deployed its parachute system. This happened Tuesday afternoon in Bellevue, that is. The single-engine plane was making an emergency landing for an unknown issue. It landed safely in a swamp near a neighborhood.
According to police, a flight instructor and student were on board. Neither was injured. Police said they received multiple 911 calls as the plane could be seen gliding toward the ground.
The Federal Aviation Administration and National Transportation Safety Board are investigating the incident. Coming up, a new effort on Capitol Hill targeting TikTok. A new bill gives the social media app an ultimatum, separate from its Chinese parent company, or face a ban.
Tensions from a clash in the South China Sea continue to grow. The U.S. issuing a statement supporting the Philippines. This after a collision between Chinese Coast Guard ships and Filipino boats. We'll have the details soon when we return.
Did you know the government can essentially rob you in plain sight? Former Fed Chair Alan Greenspan warned, deficit spending is simply a scheme for the confiscation of wealth. But he added, gold stands in the way of this insidious process. Birch Gold Group has helped thousands of Americans diversify their IRA or 401k into gold. To get a free info kit from Birch Gold, text PREPARE to 989898. Again, text PREPARE to 989898 right now.
Hi, I'm Caleb, and this is my story. I was born with osteogenesis imperfecta, or brittle bone disease. I have broken my bones almost 200 times, and I have had 11 surgeries. But I didn't let that stop me. I love to bike ride, climb, race, and I'm learning how to stand and walk. But I can only do all of this because of generous people like you and Shriners Hospitals for Children.
Because of people like you, Shriners Hospitals for Children has helped more than 1.3 million kids just like me, regardless of their family's ability to pay.
Shriners Hospitals for Children is only able to provide this world-class, life-changing medical care because of the generous gifts of people just like you.
Because of you, I can ride my bike. I can play basketball.
Because of people like you, I can run.
I can smile.
Will you send your love to the rescue today?
When you go to loveshriners.org right now and give just 63 cents a day, you're helping kids just like me.
Like me. Like me.
When you give today, we'll send you this adorable Love to the Rescue blanket as a thank you and a reminder of the love you gave to a kid just like me.
Your gift, no matter how small, can help a child today.
This is your moment to make a difference.
When you pick up your phone, you know you have it right there, and call to give. You're helping kids like me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Please call or go online now. If operators are busy, please call again or give right away at loveshriners.org.
Your gift makes a difference. Thank you for giving.
In the society that we were brought up in, it's very hard on little black boys. You have to navigate feelings and emotions so the world don't get you.
Sometimes when I cry, I won't know how I'm feeling or why I'm crying.
I just grew up never feeling like it was okay to cry.
Yeah.
And so he really forced me to have to reconnect with the kid that didn't get to cry.
That's beautiful.
Lawmakers on Capitol Hill targeting TikTok yet again. The latest effort aims to sever the social media app's ties to the Chinese Communist Party. Congress members behind a new bill say TikTok is controlled by foreign adversaries and poses an unacceptable risk to U.S. national security. NTD's Don Ma has more.
Social media app TikTok in the crosshairs of U.S. lawmakers once again. A bipartisan group of legislators is looking to force TikTok parent ByteDance to divest the popular short video app. If the Chinese company fails to do so, TikTok will face a U.S. ban. Representatives Mike Gallagher and Raja Krishnamurti introduced the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary-Controlled Applications Act. The bill would give ByteDance 165 days to sell off the social media app that is used by more than 170 million Americans. The bill says TikTok is controlled by a foreign adversary and poses a threat to U.S. national security.
While we do call out CCP-controlled company ByteDance, the bill is obviously about more. It creates a framework that is tied to foreign adversary control, a substantial ownership or operational control of a company. So I think it's fair to say that this is about that ownership structure and that framework, not about sort of going after a particular company. Now, that being said, based on the work we've done, the clear and present danger and the primary concern comes from ByteDance ownership of TikTok.
In a press release, Gallagher gave TikTok an ultimatum: break up with the Chinese Communist Party or lose access to American users. The bill marks the first significant legislative movement toward banning or forcing ByteDance to divest the app in nearly a year and could pose a significant threat to ByteDance's ownership of TikTok. Last year, Senate legislation to ban the popular app stalled in Congress because of heavy lobbying by TikTok. This new bill is expected to be taken up at an Energy and Commerce Committee hearing Thursday for a potential vote. The bill would give the president new powers to be able to classify certain apps as potential threats to national security. And if an app is deemed to pose such risks, the bill would empower the president to impose bans or restrictions on its usage. Still, the app is very popular, and getting legislation approved in an election year may be difficult. Last month, Democratic President Joe Biden's re-election campaign joined TikTok. Don Ma, NTD News.
Tensions from a clash in the South China Sea are still brewing. This comes after Chinese Coast Guard ships collided with Filipino boats. Here's more on that story.
Beijing ramping up aggression in the South China Sea. Chinese Coast Guard ships collided with Filipino vessels Tuesday. The incident happened after the Chinese ships fired water cannons at Filipino boats.
It's still illegal and irresponsible actions ng China to illegally prevent us from doing our routine mission.
The Chinese Coast Guard tried to stop Filipino boats from resupplying troops on a shoal, which China claims as its own. Manila says the Chinese Coast Guard's dangerous maneuvers led to a collision between the Philippines and the Chinese vessels. Both China and the Philippines claim portions of the South China Sea, though Beijing claims almost all of it. An international court has ruled China's claim invalid. Australia is expressing concerns.
I am very concerned, and Australia is concerned about any unsafe and destabilising behaviour in the South China Sea. It is dangerous, and it creates risks of miscalculation, which can then lead to escalation.
The U.S. government called Philippine maritime operations lawful.
Federal agencies could soon be blocked from contracting with Chinese biotech firms. A new bill approved by the state's Homeland Security Committee today aims to do just that.
It would restrict business with companies like BGI and Wuxi AppTech on national security grounds. That's to prevent the Chinese Communist Party from accessing Americans' personal health and genetic information. The companies have said the measure contains false allegations. A similar bill introduced in January accused Wuxi AppTech of colluding with the CCP's military.
The new measure must pass the full Senate and House and be signed by President Biden before taking effect. And now for a shift in gears, we have some short headlines from Sweden, Germany, and other European countries. Russia today dismissed arrest warrants issued by the International Criminal Court, or ICC. The warrants are for two high-ranking Russian military figures accusing them of war crimes against Ukrainian civilians.
Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova said the court order has no significance for Russia and that Moscow does not recognize the authority of the ICC.
On Tuesday, the court announced warrants for two top Russian commanders, Sergei Kobylash and Viktor Sokolov. They're accused of directing attacks at civilians in Ukraine and crimes against humanity.
I would just like to remind you that both Russia and many other countries do not participate in this so-called court. And the next throw-ins, or throw-outs I should say, of this institution have no significance for us and are legally void.
The director of the United Nations Atomic Watchdog arrived in Russia today for talks on nuclear safety in Ukraine. Europe's largest nuclear power plant is at risk amid fighting.
The International Atomic Energy Agency has repeatedly expressed alarm about the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. The plant has repeatedly been caught in the crossfire since Russia invaded Ukraine in February 2022.
Russian forces are in control of the facility. The Atomic Agency's Director General is expected to meet Russian President Vladimir Putin today. The plant's 6 reactors have been shut down for months.
But it still needs power and qualified staff to operate crucial cooling systems and other safety systems. The Atomic Agency's chief last met with Putin in October 2022.
Swedish and Finnish Marines engaged in amphibious operations from a U.S. Navy warship in the Norwegian Arctic. The maneuvers are part of preparation for the Nordic Response 2024 exercise.
Finland joined NATO in April 2023 following decades of military non-alignment. The country shares an 830-mile border with Russia. Neighboring Sweden is currently finalizing formalities to enter the military alliance as its 32nd member.
Both Sweden and Finland developed strong ties with NATO after the end of the Cold War. However, public opinion remained firmly against full membership until Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
The Pan-Nordic drill is part of Steadfast Defender 24, NATO's biggest exercises in decades. Up to 90,000 troops will participate over several months.
And an independent German lobby group called on the government today to better protect businesses against power cuts. Task Force AG Kritis says the power grid must remain operational even when one line is disrupted, and that a power cut should never have happened at a Tesla plant outside Berlin after an arson attack.
A far-left militant organization calling itself the Volcano Group claimed responsibility. A letter from the group accuses Tesla of harming the earth and workers.
Police are still investigating. Tesla CEO Elon Musk condemned the incident on X. Camera footage captured an avalanche falling down a mountain in Chamonix, France, Tuesday.
Amateur video shows snow rolling down a mountain and coming close to a group of 6 skiers.
The mountain guide and ski instructor who recorded the footage said nobody was hurt. He added that a Chamonix High Mountain police helicopter was on site within minutes of the event.
They also found no signs of casualties after scanning the area.
Up ahead, home births in Canberra, Australia are on the rise. A local home birth program reports a 100% success rate.
And a porcupine at a UK zoo is having a special Mother's Day this weekend after giving birth to a spiky new baby. Find out what zookeepers named the joyful newborn. More shortly here on NTD News Today.
I'm Steve Lance. Join me live for special coverage of the 2024 State of the Union address and the Republican response. A crisis on the southern border, inflation soaring, and global conflicts threatening the free world. President Biden's job approval more consequential than ever this election year. Join us Thursday, March 7th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on NTD News.
This is it, the culmination of everything our young athlete has worked for these past months. He's filled with determination. You can see it in his face. Is today the day he overcomes? And here we go. There is no defense in the world that will keep him at bay. He's on fire. Nothing can stop him. Watch him as he heads towards the goal. Oh, he's blocked hard, but that doesn't stop him. He's a warrior. He's back up. His eyes are on the goal. He's set up for the shot. He shoots. Goal!
Achieving goals like this is only possible with the monthly support of people just like you.
Please call the number on your screen right now and give your monthly support to Shriners Hospitals for Children so other children can reach their goals too.
If you give just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day, we will send you your very own Love to the Rescue blanket as a reminder of the love you're giving us. Because of monthly support of people like you, nothing is stopping me from achieving my goals.
And here we go. There is no defense in the world that will keep him at bay. He's going left. Oh, he fakes right and continues. Look at those moves. He takes the shot. Goal! Please call or go online now. If operators are busy, call again or go to loveshriners.org to give right away. Your monthly gift helps kids achieve their goals. Goal!
My dad's name was David. He always talked about getting life insurance, and now it's too late.
No one was expecting my husband Dave to suffer from a heart attack. We didn't have life insurance. We thought we had more time.
Don't be Dave, and don't wait until it's too late to get the life insurance coverage you need.
And if you don't have enough insurance to cover funeral costs, credit card debt, and other expenses, your family is going to get stuck with the bill. Call now to get affordable life insurance.
Just call
800-494-1562.
If you're over 50, you can't be turned down for this insurance, regardless of your health. Plus, there's no medical exam, no health questions. Your rate will never go up. Your coverage will never go down. And rates start as low as $5 a week. Remember, don't be Dave. Call now.
Call now.
800-494-1562.
Demand for home births in Canberra, Australia is on the rise. The increase is a result of the local health service's new publicly funded program. NTD's Andrew Thomas has more on what is proving to be a safe and successful option for women.
Carista Parker gave birth to her second child, Miles, in the comfort of her own home. Weighing an impressive 11 pounds, Miles is the 100th baby born through the Australian Capital Territory home birth program. Miles' sister Freya was born in a hospital. For Parker, giving birth to Miles at home seemed an easier option.
I felt safe at home to not have to leave anywhere, like to just jump straight back into my bed, have food from our fridge, to be in a safe space.
Miles' father, Kurt, wasn't convinced at first. He was mostly worried about potential complications.
We talked about it and we got comfortable with the idea, and it was very nice and smooth, both of them.
Felt a lot more calm and relaxed, like I could probably have slept in between contractions. That's how chilled out I was.
Research on home births report lower rates of trauma and medical interventions. Women choosing this delivery option are also more likely to breastfeed and for a longer period of time. So far, the ACT home birth program has had a 100% success rate.
Just looking at the family and the effect it has on them makes us feel good, because then we know we've done our job, and that's why you stay in this job so long.
The program is open to all women in the area with low-risk pregnancies. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
A return to traditional values can bring benefits to your mind and body. Here's Gina Marie with 6 ideas to get you started.
A lot has changed in America and the world in the past 75 years. 3 new generations of people have been born, and with them a whole new set of values have spread. Many old-fashioned values have fallen out of favour, but that doesn't mean you can't revive them. Here are 6 ideas. Let's start with number 1, community involvement. Before the world became global and connected, human relationships were centred around communities. These are the places where people live, work, worship, and enjoy entertainment. Communities foster a sense of belonging and can be a source of support in our increasingly individualistic world. To revive this value, join community groups or participate in the local happenings of your city or town. Number 2, know your neighbours. People used to depend on their neighbours like an extended part of their own families, but with increased wealth and more screen-based hobbies, these relationships are declining. Many people don't know their neighbours' names, nor do they hold conversations. Start by making friendly small talk, offering to help with outside jobs, and loaning tools. Number 3, respect for elders. There is a growing lack of appreciation for the older people among us. This effect has grown stronger alongside the rise and worship of young music stars, athletes, and online influencers. So how do we push back? We need to make time and space for our elders to share the unique perspectives. The reason is these hold important lessons. Number 4, face-to-face conversations. Communication methods have changed over the course of time, but one thing has remained true. Our deepest and most intimate connections with humans occur face-to-face. Aim to meet up with friends and spend screen-free time with one another. Number 5, manual skills and resourcefulness. The result of increased wealth is further specialization and fewer DIY efforts. Nowadays, many people don't fix their own cars, mow their lawns, or have the need to fix anything. But there are benefits to learning how to do things on your own. You'll develop a resourceful spirit and pick up 1 or 2 practical skills. And finally, number 6, natural physical activity. Just a few generations ago, it would have seemed silly to exercise in an intentional way. That's because moving your body was just a part of life. Many people now spend their entire day and evenings in a seated posture. Instead of going to the gym, revive the art of natural and playful movement in your life. This could mean a renaissance of anything from gardening to walking into town. You could even play on a recreational sports team. In closing, it's time to get off our screens and remember we're embodied creatures who thrive in a physical world.
An unexpected sight off the Massachusetts coast. It's a gray whale, one that's basically been extinct in the Atlantic Ocean for more than 2 centuries. An aerial survey team from the New England Aquarium made the discovery last Friday about 30 miles south of Nantucket. They swirled around the area for nearly an hour, snapping pictures of the marine mammal.
These types of whales are often found in the North Pacific Ocean, but they pretty much vanished in the Atlantic by the 18th century. However, aquarium officials say they've had 5 such sightings in the Atlantic and Mediterranean over the past decade and a half.
Gray whales are easy to recognize because they don't have a dorsal fin, but do have a dorsal hump with ridges. And in the UK, a porcupine at the Whipsnade Zoo in England is having a special Mother's Day this Sunday. Kimya gave birth to a spiky new baby last month.
The tot, known as a porcupet, is just starting to venture outside. Zookeepers don't know yet whether it's male or female.
But they named a 3-week-old Dakari, which means rejoice in the Zimbabwe language. This is the second baby to join the prickle in the last 6 months.
Kimya gave birth to another porcupet in August. Thankfully, their father is helping out with the little ones.
Well, that's all for today's news.
Thank you for tuning in.
Feel free to reach out to us with news tips or feedback at news.today@ntd.com.
We'll be back with more stories tomorrow.